Jambo Year 2, and that's hello in Swahili, which is the language they speak in Kenya. So this fact of the day is 9 times 5 is 45. So 9 sets of 5 makes 45, which is what the picture shows. And remember, we said if it's an odd number, then it will have the 5 at the end. It's a way of helping you with your 5 times table. And if we turn it round, that means 5 nines will also make 45. Now if you have one more 5, you'll be up to 10 fives, and that'd be 50. So 45 is one less than 50. So if we do the inverse and put the 45 first, if you divide it into 5s, there are 9 of them. And if you divide the 45 into 9s, there are 5 of them. And let's show that on the picture. So that's 1 9, 2 9s, 3 9s, 4 9s, and 5 9s. And if we make it bigger, 9 50s, remember we put a 0 on the end there, would be 450, or 9 50p's would be, I can hardly fit that in, £4.50, and I didn't even fit in the pound sign. There's the pound sign. If we change it round, you can put 59s, or you could have 5 90s. It will also be 450. Let's divide it up. So let's divide it. First of all, I'm going to write them all down. Maybe I'm not going to put in the answers this time. Let's see if you can put those in. I'll put in all the questions. I'm going to come up with 4 different ones. So divided into 90s and divided into 50s. So it's quite tricky getting those right. So see if you can fill in those ones. Write down the questions and see if you can fill in the answers. And we've just got room for a challenge one. Let's have 19 5s. So we'd have to split it up into 10 5s, which we know are 50, and 9 5s, which we know are 45. But can you add those together? It's going to be quite a big number, 19 5s. See if you can work that one out. Right, write those in your book. Your TLP for today is, can I find fractions of shapes? Now remember, a fraction is a part of a whole. So here we've got a whole circle and it's divided into 3 bits. So that would be the bottom number on your fraction. One of those bits is coloured in. So that makes that 1/3. Now if you look at the white bits, there's still 3 bits altogether. 2 of the bits are white, so that would be 2/3. 2/3 are white. Now you're going to be using actual shapes and seeing if you can divide them equally in half. So here's some examples of shapes. Now you're not going to do it by drawing. I'm going to draw on these, but you're going to be doing it in a minute by folding. So if we look at some of these shapes, if we were imagining folding them in half, there's the circle. You'd fold it in half down the middle. Now some of the shapes, there's a few different choices for how to do it. So the triangle, you could go down that way, or that would still make 2 equal halves, as long as it's equal. Or can we do it another way? We could go from that corner. So if we folded it along that line, the 2 halves would be equal. Now this shape here, you're going to have to go down the middle. So those 2 halves are equal. If you put a mirror in the middle, they'd be equal. But if you did it there, that would not be half, because the top bit is smaller and it's a different shape to the bottom bit. So let's see if we can go right down the middle again. Now some triangles are different. This one, you couldn't do that because the 2 sides are not equal. The only way you can fold this one in half is by going through there. Now this shape is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a pentagon. So you could divide it in half down there. But you could also divide it that way. Or you could divide it that way. As long as the halves match, it doesn't matter. Now this one is a hexagon. Now the hexagon has got lots of different ways of dividing it in half. You might remember from when we did symmetry, you can either go from the middle of the flat bits, or you can go from the point to a point, and that's still half on both sides. And a square, I'm going to have to change the colour of the line for the square because that's not going to show up, is it? It's the same colour. Let's try a blue one. You can either go that way, or you could go diagonally across that way. So all those shapes now have been divided into two equal halves. Now the next fraction we're going to look at is quarters. Now they also have to be equal, so you want 4 equal quarters. Now a circle is quite easy to do in quarters. You just do it in halves and then in halves again. Let's go diagonally with this one. A bit like you're cutting up a sandwich. For the square, it's going to be quite easy for this one as well. Remember, the 4 bits have to match exactly. Not sure about that pentagon. Not sure if I can do that in quarters. And this triangle, don't think I can do that one. So, not sure about him. Don't think I can do him. Definitely can't do that one. I'm going to cross that one out. Can't do that one at all into quarters. What about this one though? I think you can do that one, but I'm not going to show you how to do it. Now in your pack, if you've got it, you should have a sheet. I'm going to show you a video now for what I want you to do with the sheet. If you haven't got it, you can watch the video at the end using the circle and you can have a go at doing that one. When you get your pack, you should have a sheet like this with some shapes on it. It might be green or it might be this colour, it might be orange. So you've got 2 circles, 2 triangles, I hope you remember the names of these shapes, 2 squares, so the square did go a bit wrong, it's a bit too long, 2 rectangles, only one of those, not sure why there's only one of those, but that's a pentagon because it's got 5 sides, and 2 hexagons down the bottom. Now your first job is to cut them out. So I've already cut out all of my shapes. Now what you're going to do with each shape first of all is find half. So if I start with a circle, the way you're going to find half, just like we showed with the big circle, is by folding it in half. So now I've got my circles in half. A triangle, remember you have to line it up really neatly. There we go, that's the triangle in half. The square, now because this isn't a brilliant square, you can't really do it diagonally. I'm going to have to do it that way. Half a square, half of the rectangle. That's in half. What else did we have? There's the hexagon. Hexagon goes really neatly in half. And then there was a pentagon, wasn't it? But there was only one. So pentagon, I think I know why there's only one, because I know what you're going to have to do next. Whoops. Is now in half. So the next job is going to be to cut them in half. So you've got 2 bits. Once you've cut them in half, you're going to label them and stick them in your book. Now, don't stick them completely joined up back together again. I want you to leave a gap in between because you're going to make it into a number sentence. So there we've got half and half. I'm going to use a pen so it shows up, but you can use a pencil. So half add half equals 1, because if you add 2 halves together, you would get 1 circle back. I'll just do the triangle as well as another example. So for each of your shapes, you're going to stick in the 2 halves and then make it into a number sentence. Remember to leave a gap in the middle, or else you've made the shape again, haven't you? So half add half equals 1. So you're going to do that for each of your shapes. So you've got half of each shape stuck in your book. Once you've stuck the halves in your book, your next challenge is to get the second shape. Remember, there isn't a pentagon. I think the reason there isn't a pentagon is I'm not sure if you can quarter that. It sounds really tricky. And it's to try and make quarters. So if we start with the one we know, Remember, fold it first because then it will make it a lot easier. You can see the lines to cut on. Don't draw any lines on them. You're just going to cut on the fold. So that's a hard one. I'll leave that one there for now. So to make a quarter is half of a half. So you make the half first and then you half your half and that will give you 4 quarters. Now remember this square. If you want to do it diagonally, you might have to cut a bit off because as you can see by that, it's not a proper square. But if you just do it like a birthday card, you can get 4 quarters. And once you've folded them, you're going to cut them, but do one at a time. Don't do them all at the same time like I am because you'll end up with a pile of bits if you just cut them all out. So cut out one at a time. That's the rectangle. Now, I wonder if you can work out how to quarter that. I'm not going to show you because that is a real challenge. We'll see if anyone can work it out. You can do it just by folding, but it's not half and half. It's a different way of doing it. Once you've got your 4 bits, remember do one shape at a time because it is quite hard, especially with that hexagon, finding the right bits and putting them back together again so it looks like a hexagon. You're going to write quarter or a fourth on each one. And 4 quarters, so quarter, add quarter, add quarter, add quarter, equals 1. Maybe you can work out what quarter add quarter would equal. So there's the hexagon. 4 quarters equals 1. I suppose we could put an add in the middle to show we're adding all of them. And the triangle, still haven't done that, but I'll give you a clue. One of the quarters of the triangle will be in the middle. Just like we did with the square, or actually it was a rectangle, wasn't it? Because it was a whole sheet of paper. You can do the same thing with a circle. So I've drawn round a plate there to get a big circle. And then I'm going to cut the circle out. So once you've got your hole, that's one circle, so one whole circle. Then we're going to fold it in half, just like we did when we had the rectangle. And now we've got half of a circle. And if we fold the half in half, and if you can remember what the next one's called, that one is a quarter of a circle or a fourth. That's 1 bit out of 4 bits. And if I fold it in half again, it's a bit tricky as it gets smaller. That one is an 1/8 because it's half of a quarter. And if you're really strong, you can fold it in half one more time. And so half of an 1/8, and you might have noticed this pattern now, it's actually double the 8, isn't it? So it's a 1/16. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it any smaller than that until I have a go at cutting them out. So just like before, I've made a new whole one so we can show the fractions of the whole. So that is half, which means that 2 of those will fit on there. This one is a quarter, so 4 of those will fit on the whole. 8 of those, because that's an 1/8. And then we had the tiny 1/16, and I did cheat, I didn't fold it, I cut another one out. That would be half of a 1/16. Let's see if you can remember from last time what that little tiny one would be. How many of those tiny ones would fit on that hole?